Diddy's own attorney just confirmed what many people suspected. 50 Cent may have completely destroyed Sean Combs' chances of getting out on appeal. The release of Sean Combs' The Reckoning, 50 Cent's new Netflix documentary, didn't just reopen old wounds. It reignited public and legal scrutiny around some of the darkest chapters tied to Combs' name, including renewed attention on the murder of Tupac Shakur. And according to multiple legal analysts, that timing could not be worse for Diddy. 50 Cent isn't playing defense. He's playing offense. He has openly said he's willing to personally reach out to President Trump to remind him of past statements and conflicts involving Diddy, specifically to ensure there is no pardon if Combs remains convicted on trafficking or racketeering-related charges. That's not subtle, that's personal. And when someone is willing to go directly to the president just to block your last possible exit, that's not beef anymore. That's a shutdown. Diddy was already skating on thin ice after reports surfaced that he had been drinking and making unauthorized calls while in custody. Now, this documentary has added fuel to a fire that was already out of control. Insiders say Combs is fully aware of how damaging this is, which explains why his legal team is fighting so aggressively to get the documentary taken down. Diddy's lawyers have reportedly sent cease and desist letters and are now threatening a massive defamation lawsuit, allegedly in the range of $1 billion, against both Netflix and 50 Cent. Their claim? That the documentary used stolen or unauthorized footage and amounts to a hit piece. But here's the problem with that argument. Multiple legal commentators have pointed out that documentary footage does not require subject approval if it qualifies as newsworthy material. And according to the documentary itself, a large portion of the footage came from a videographer Diddy personally hired and allegedly failed to pay. If there was no finalized contract, that footage doesn't legally belong to Diddy, and that's where everything starts to fall apart. Reports suggest Combs hired a young videographer to follow him nearly 24/7, filming meetings, phone calls, private conversations, with promises of payment that never fully materialized. If payment wasn't made and no clear ownership agreement was signed, the footage legally remained with the creator. So when 50 Cent came along and offered to license it, that wasn't theft, that was business. Even worse for Diddy, the documentary didn't just expose him, it exposed his legal team. Never before seen footage shows Combs speaking candidly with his attorneys, allegedly discussing strategy and even potential misconduct. That footage appears to include conversations that Diddy's lawyers believed were protected under attorney-client privilege. But here's the brutal reality. The privilege belongs to the client, not the lawyer. If Diddy secretly recorded those conversations, that privilege may be gone, and his lawyers are furious. Legal insiders say one attorney in particular.
Yeah, we are planning to appeal.
Man, I want to hear them, bro.
We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion, and I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean, and so we are planning to appeal.
Absolutely. Filed a cross appeal. What would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as soon as.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing.
Consensual. The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's biased.
Make of his remarks.
He's biased.
If anyone, I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking, there was no racketeering, everything was consensual, everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror,
yes,
one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
In particular, Mark Magnani essentially saved Diddy from a life sentence by dismantling the prosecution's case and steering the jury away from the most serious charges. That outcome wasn't luck. It was strategy. And yet, Diddy allegedly recorded him without his knowledge. That's not just betrayal, that's self-sabotage. Sources say Magnani believed those conversations were private, moments where he could speak candidly, warn Diddy about his behavior, and try to keep the case from imploding. Instead, those moments were captured on camera, later leaked, and now streamed to millions. Which raises a dangerous question. Was Diddy planning to release his own documentary all along? According to people close to the situation, yes. The only reason 50 Cent even got access to this footage is because Diddy allegedly refused to pay the videographer. A billionaire cutting corners. And it cost him everything. 50 Cent even addressed this publicly, explaining how Combs would demand near constant filming. Yachts, travel, parties, private meetings, then dispute invoices when the hours piled up. When contracts are breached, footage becomes leverage, and leverage gets sold. Now here's the part that really seals it. 50 Cent has confirmed he's sitting on over 140 hours of additional footage, material that has not yet been released. He hasn't said exactly what's on it, but he made one thing clear. He's not done. At the same time, reports indicate that 50 Cent has been actively contacting legal figures and submitting materials aimed at blocking Diddy's appeal outright. Not commenting, not speculating, intervening. If Combs is legal...
Following some breaking news right now, and Sean Combs is taking the first step to appeal his conviction and prison sentence. His attorney today filed a notice of appeal. Earlier this month, the disgraced music mogul was sentenced to 4 years in prison on prostitution-related charges. His lawyers have argued the conviction should not stand because Combs lacked a financial motive for transporting male escorts. More papers detailing the arguments behind the appeal are expected to be filed soon.
The legal team pulls back or fractures further, his remaining cases become nearly impossible to survive. In the end, Diddy didn't lose because of 50 Cent alone. He lost because he burned bridges with the people who protected him, his lawyers, his staff, his videographer. And now the footage meant to save him, maybe the very thing that keeps him locked up. And if what's already been released is just the beginning, then Sean Combs' appeal might already be over. What makes this situation even more dangerous for Diddy is that what the public has seen so far may only be a fraction of what exists. According to 50 Cent himself, the footage used in Sean Combs...
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day.
Perhaps.
What was he intending to use it for?
I have no idea what he was doing that for.
I mean, you know, you're talking about a man who films himself doing everything and has for decades. I think he wanted someone to be behind the...
Watch this and think that you really hate Sean Combs.
Why would they be thinking that?
Because of the things that you post on Instagram,
Yeah,
because of the...
Look at this. And let's stop for a second and do say that I hated him enough to hire his kids. And we've never done anything to each other. So it's just competitive energy and things that you say about other artists while you're in hip-hop culture.
This documentary is one of several that has chronicled Combs' rise and fall. But Stapleton says theirs is different.
There's a lot of new information. No one had ever really put it together like that before.
For 50 Cent, he says he feels a sense of obligation.
Well, you know, if I didn't say anything, you could assume that all of hip-hop culture is comfortable with his actions.
The reckoning barely scratched the surface. In recent interviews, 50 confirmed that he holds far more material than what could fit into the 4 Netflix episodes, and that additional content is already planned for release, not on Netflix, on YouTube. When asked directly whether there was footage that didn't make the cut, 50 was blunt. 4 episodes weren't enough. He had to choose what made it in and what didn't. And more importantly, he revealed that new people have come forward since the documentary aired, saying they now feel comfortable speaking because others finally told their stories publicly. That detail matters because it suggests the situation isn't winding down, it's expanding. 50 went on to confirm that a second wave of material is coming, stating plainly that something new would be released on YouTube. featuring footage and testimony that never appeared on Netflix. While he didn't specify dates, he made it clear this wasn't hypothetical. It's already in motion. And that alone may explain why Diddy's legal team has suddenly gone into overdrive. Just months ago, before the documentary dropped, Combs' attorneys were publicly confident. They announced plans to appeal his conviction and openly suggested that Diddy could be released on bail or see his sentence overturned entirely. Diddy reportedly believed he had done nothing wrong, and that even with a conviction, prison time shouldn't apply to him. His attorneys echoed that confidence, arguing that the jury explicitly rejected coercion and trafficking, yet the judge referenced coercion repeatedly during sentencing. They claimed this amounted to judicial bias, accusing the judge of acting like a 13th juror and overriding the jury's conclusions. Their position was simple: no trafficking, no racketeering, everything consensual, and therefore no justification for the sentence. But the appeal wasn't Diddy's only escape route. Before sentencing, President Trump confirmed that Combs' team had reached out requesting a pardon. Reports suggested that, had everything gone according to plan, Diddy might have been released as early as the end of the year. That plan collapsed, and once again, 50 Cent was right in the middle of it. Prior to sentencing, 50 submitted a formal letter to the judge, a move that stunned many, urging the court to consider public safety before granting leniency. In that letter, 50 described Combs as dangerous, claimed a decades-long conflict, and stated that he had feared for his life on multiple occasions. He argued that Diddy hadn't had enough time to reform, and that allowing him back into society posed a real risk. That letter didn't come from a random commentator. It came from one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop, and the judge received it. Predictably, backlash followed. Some critics accused 50 of being petty. Others claimed jealousy, but that argument doesn't hold up under scrutiny. 50 Cent isn't chasing relevance. He's a multi-millionaire with massive stakes in television, film, and business. Speaking out only exposes him to legal and reputational risk, not reward. 50 addressed the criticism directly, saying he doesn't care if people label him petty. He'll wear it. His reasoning, he explained, is cultural, not personal. Staying silent would imply that hip-hop condones the behavior alleged against Combs, and he refuses to be silent. Meanwhile, Diddy's camp has doubled down. His attorney publicly called the Netflix documentary a shameful hit piece, accusing Netflix of using stolen footage and claiming Combs had been documenting his life since age 19 to tell his own story. But that defense collapses if the footage...
Saying a black man shouldn't be doing this to another black man. How come we not having conversations about what Diddy did to other black people? Like when you watch that documentary, every person on that documentary except for Aubrey O'Day is black. So how come nobody is saying a black man shouldn't do that to other black people? Because here's the thing, there are things we know Diddy did because we saw it, and there are things he's being accused of. We don't know if they're true. Right. But either way, majority of people who are accusing him of something are black. So I don't understand why, there's not more conversations about that, but everybody's 50 Cent shouldn't be doing this to another black man. What about all of the black people Diddy did and allegedly did stuff?
Doesn't legally belong to him. And that's the core issue. If Diddy failed to pay the videographer, failed to finalize ownership agreements, and allowed filming without contract enforcement, then he lost control of his own narrative, and someone else sold it. In interviews surrounding the documentary's release, the director confirmed that neither Diddy nor his legal team were aware the footage would air until it did. When it premiered, it was the first time they realized those private moments, including conversations with lawyers, were now public. Which raises a final uncomfortable truth. If this is what made it into the documentary, and if more footage is coming, and if new witnesses are now stepping forward, then Diddy's appeal isn't just weak. It may already be dead. And whatever happens next likely won't happen quietly, or in a courtroom. For 50 Cent, this was never just about rivalry. He said repeatedly that staying silent would have sent the wrong message. That hip-hop culture was comfortable with what Sean Combs was accused of, and that to him was unacceptable. 50 has been blunt about it. If he didn't speak up, people could reasonably assume the entire culture was fine with a powerful black man harming other black people. That's the part he says gets ignored in the backlash against him. Because when you actually look at the accusations, and even the confirmed incidents, the overwhelming majority of alleged victims are black. Yet instead of asking why that keeps happening, critics focus on why 50 would do this to another black man. His response is simple. Why isn't the focus on what was done to black people? 50 has also shut down the rumor that this is about jealousy or personal relationships. Claims that he's acting out because of a woman have been dismissed outright. According to those close to him, the idea that a man with global access, wealth, and power would be motivated by that is laughable. This goes deeper. Long before this documentary, 50 Cent had his own history with the industry, including being blackballed, threatened, and nearly killed. After releasing music that exposed industry politics, multiple powerful figures allegedly labeled him bad business, cutting off deals and warning others not to work with him. That forced 50 to leave New York entirely and rebuild his career on the West Coast with Dr. Dre and Eminem. And according to people who've spoken publicly, Diddy was part of the network that helped shut doors on him during that time. So when people ask why there's no love lost, the answer is history. Now, tensions are no longer just public, they're personal. Shortly after the Netflix documentary aired, 50 revealed that he received a bouquet of flowers sent by Diddy while Diddy was incarcerated. He interpreted it not as goodwill, but as a warning. 50 posted it publicly, mocking the gesture while making it clear he understood the subtext. In his words, he's 90s grimy. You don't warn him, you act. And that alone suggests Diddy knows how exposed he is. At this point, the worst possible outcome for Diddy would be another federal case. And that's exactly where this appears to be heading. One of the most explosive elements of the documentary was its focus on the murders of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious Big. Allegations that have circulated for decades were reintroduced with new framing, new witnesses, and renewed public pressure. Most notably, Tupac Shakur's family has now officially hired investigators to examine a potential connection between Tupac's death and Sean Combs. Court TV confirmed that this investigation is active, and attorneys have acknowledged that Combs' name has resurfaced repeatedly in connection with Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, who is set to go on trial. Law enforcement sources have been clear. The challenge isn't interest, it's cooperation. These cases are old. The burden of proof is high. What's missing is corroboration from people willing to talk. And that's exactly what 50's documentary appears to be encouraging. Even legal analysts acknowledge that while nothing is proven at this stage, it is absolutely possible for new testimony or evidence to reopen old cases, especially if multiple witnesses come forward independently. Jaguar Wright has also spoken out, placing blame squarely on the jury in Diddy's recent trial. She alleges the panel was compromised, stacked with individuals predisposed to sympathize with the defense and influenced by celebrity bias. She's pointed to inconsistencies in juror interviews and behavior, arguing that the verdict didn't reflect the gravity of the testimony presented. Meanwhile, 50 isn't slowing down. In interviews with CNN and NBC, he's joked openly about Diddy seeing the documentary, saying he thinks Diddy will love it because it shows the truth. And more importantly, he's made it clear that more footage exists. The director of the documentary has confirmed that Netflix legally obtained the material and has the rights to use it. Diddy's legal team sent a cease and desist anyway, and it went nowhere. Every path Diddy believed would save him is collapsing. The appeal is shaky, the pardon route is dead, lawyers are exposed, allies are distancing themselves, more witnesses are coming forward, and more footage is still unreleased. Instead of silencing the story, the documentary cracked it wide open. So the real question now isn't whether this damages Diddy's reputation. That's already happened. The question is whether this leads to something much bigger. Because if even a fraction of what's still unreleased becomes public, or reaches law enforcement, this won't end with one conviction. It will be remembered as the beginning. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this documentary permanently ended Diddy's chances? Or do you believe there's still something we haven't seen yet? Either way, this story is far from over.